All right, well, Leah, my name is Angie, okay? I am Partners Title.
Okay, I'll do that.
There's Noye. So I am the title company for Keller Williams, okay? So I have a partner, his name is Scott. He works out of our north location. So we've got this office as well as the north location, which is up by Northrop High School, okay? So if you're ever going to schedule closings, those are the two locations that we use the most.
Oh,
However,
here in this office.
Absolutely, I'm here all the time. I do work out of the north office every once in a while, and I do leave for meetings and appointments and whatnot, but I'm generally here, okay? So I'm back in the back by the conference room. So if you ever have any questions, you can just pop back there and bring anything up. Doesn't matter if it's a transaction I'm working on, or if you just have a general question, period. I'll help you out, okay? All right, so what we're gonna learn about today is title insurance. So when did you get your license?
Actually got my license back in, I think, the end of November, early December.
Okay, so you're a
And
newbie.
then I got active in June.
Oh, God love you. So you're ready to go. You're ready to go. All right. Do you know what title insurance is?
Yeah, I do, but I know it's like an insurance that you get for like when you're buying a property to ensure that the insurance is transferable.
That's the general part of it. But yes, that is ultimately the goal is you want to make sure that if you are handling a buyer, for instance, that that buyer is taking possession of that property free and clear. Okay, and we'll get into what that means for you. But you want to ultimately make sure that your buyer is not taking a piece of property that may have what we call debts, liens, that kind of thing on that property that will carry along with the property. We don't want that to happen. So that's where we come in to make sure that they are considered free and clear, okay? So my name is Angie. Like I said, Partners Title, I am the Director of Growth and Development, meaning I help you grow and I help you develop, right? Pretty simple. So I'm your one-stop shop when it comes to all things closing, all things title. So any questions, like I said earlier, always make sure you bring them to me, okay? All right, so I've already met with Miss Adriana, who's on the Zoom call. So I've got a little back history from her. Leah, I know you are also what I call a newbie, and if that offends you, please let me know right away, because that's kind of.
That's how
You're a newbie, so you are a sponge. You are here to take all this information in, because I know it's just adding to that information that you've already had to take in, right? Right? So what'd you do before you got your real estate license?
So I'm a nurse, I'm still a nurse, I work, yeah, I was telling you, I worked last night, so I'm in the middle of
Are you a third shift?
third shift.
Which?
North.
I don't have a third shift during part of you.
Yeah.
It's inpatient oncology.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was just there the other day, I transferred a patient. My guy, I'm a reception.
I Gotcha. Well, thank you. Yes, it's a lot of work y'all do, so I appreciate it. I hear her story. So,
Yeah, a lot of interesting stories.
all right, well, we're just gonna kind of keep on moving here. Why title insurance? According to studies, virtually not one child, not one, wants to grow up to be a title abstractor, a title examiner, a title sales rep, or a title closer. And you see that, I made this up, but it's probably true. Most people don't even know what those are, okay? The general public doesn't know what a title abstractor is. They don't know what an examiner is, or obviously people know what sales reps are, that kind of thing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the abstracting is what we call search. That's how we search the property. Have you ever seen those big, thick abstract books from long ago that were a history of the property, a written history of the property?
I've seen one.
Okay, those have come and gone because now everything is computerized. But used to happen is those would get traded around. And that would be a record of land grants and deeds, and it just kind of would travel with the property. So if you're able to ever get your hands on what we call an abstract from maybe a house in West Central, a lot of history in those houses. So it's very interesting to read, but now everything is computerized. So what'll happen is when that title order comes our way, the first thing we do is we search that property, okay? We find out if there are any mortgages on that property, if there are any judgments, and I'll go into all of that stuff. But we want to see first and foremost what's on the property, okay? The next step is exam. So when you start to see fees come across, you're gonna see search and exam, and this is gonna make more sense to you, okay? Because then a second person, the second set of eyes will take a look at that search and examine it closely. Is our seller really our seller? Okay, you'd be surprised. Is our seller deceased? I mean, there are a lot of things that come into play when we're examining that piece of title, okay? Because then we put it all together on what's called a title commitment, which is gonna be the first document in your packet, okay? This is a title commitment, and by commitment, what I mean is we put this together based on information we find in our search and exam. But ultimately, this is what we as title people live in and breathe by, okay? So this comes our way and we have to fix it, in other words. So if there are any liens on that property, we have to get them cleared off, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But this is our Bible, this is what we work from. This is good for 60 days, okay? So title commitments are good for 60 days. Some people will consider them for 30 days, some lenders, and that's perfectly fine as well. But what that ultimately means is that in those 30 days or those 60 days, what is in there is good to go. But outside of that, we have to update it to make sure that nothing else has happened from when we first generated that title commitment, okay? So by commitment, at the end of the day, our goal is to get to what's called a final policy, okay? So our commitment is a commitment to you that within 30 to 60 days, we're going to clear this and provide customers with a final policy at the end of the day, okay? The commitment is not the final title insurance policy. It's just what we work by to get everything cleared off. Your goal as realtors is to learn how to read these commitments, okay? And that's where I come in as far as education, to sit down and explain to you how you read this commitment and what it means to you as a realtor, okay? We don't expect you to understand this commitment thoroughly from beginning to end. That's not your job, that's ours, okay?
This whole thing is it.
Yeah. But we do expect, or not expect, but we hope that you at least get an idea of how to look at them. You know, because if you're handling a seller, for instance, and your seller says, my property is free and clear, right? We don't have a mortgage on it, but then you get the title commitment and all of a sudden there's a mortgage on there, okay? So there are a lot of stipulations, and that's what we use. So you'll know by looking at it as a realtor, oh, there is a mortgage on here. My sellers told me there wasn't, so why, all right? And it could be as simple as maybe they had an equity line to open up that they didn't use, it's zero balance, so we just have to release it, okay? But either way, any liens or mortgages that show up on that commitment have to either be paid off or released, okay? And that's something else that we can get into a little bit later as well. So I want you guys as realtors to understand how to read a title commitment, just so that you can flag any questions and bring them to our attention if we haven't already seen them, okay? Obviously, y'all know what a sales rep is, title closer. That's your sit down, hey, that's your smile and sign here, girl, or guy. I know there's some guys out there that do it. So they're the ones going through the docs with the customers at the table and settling the transaction, okay? All right, so what is title insurance? Simply stated, it is a title is to a piece of property, is evidence that the owner is in lawful possession of that property. You would think that was simple, right? You would think your seller comes to you and says, hey, I want to sell this piece of property. Okay, easy peasy. Well, all of a sudden we pull a title commitment, thank you, and we see that he's not the seller, but mom is the actual owner of the property, okay? So why is Mr. signing the purchase agreement as the seller when mom really owns that piece of property? So that's where we come in, is to make sure we clear up any of those questions, okay? So what really is title insurance? It protects real estate owners and lenders against any property loss or damage they might experience because of liens, encumbrances, and or defects or in title to the property. Each title insurance policy is subject to specific terms, conditions, and exclusions. What is a lien? You know what a lien is? It's a mortgage. Yeah, ultimately it's a mortgage. They have a mortgage with Horizon Bank down the street and they're selling their house. We have to pay Horizon Bank off at closing, so it does not become the buyer's debt. Make sense? Easy peasy, right? Encumbrances are anybody who may think that they have interest in that property, okay? And then obviously there's defects, which could be anything from neighborhood code liens to something is wrong with the property. The deed, 3 deeds ago may have been wrong, which created a defect in title, so we have to make sure we get that cleared up as well, okay? This is all stuff that we do on the back end. It's a lot, it's a lot. All right, so insurance, most people are familiar with how insurance works. Obviously, homeowners you get in case your house burns down. Auto, you might get in a car accident. Insurance generally protects against something that might happen in the future, right? Title insurance is different. We are the only insurance product which doesn't protect against a contingency. In other words, we're not protecting against the possibility your appendix might burst down the road, right? We're instead protecting against something that's already happened. Make sense? All right, so you are selling a piece of property for your seller, all right? And you have a title commitment. We get to the closing table a month later. After this closes, the whole 9 yards, all of a sudden somebody reaches out and says, hey, wait a minute. I did some work on that property 8 years ago. They never paid me for the work that I did. Maybe they had a Florida room or something put on. And I placed a lien on title to recoup any costs, okay? I should have been paid off. Why the title company missed it? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't recorded correctly. There could have been a lot of different things, but it is the title company's responsibility to make that good. That's why you get title insurance, okay? Because that contractor can still go place a lien on that title on property, but then it now rides with the new owner, which is the buyer, all right? We don't want that to happen, so we have to clear that up. So that is a claim against a title insurance policy. The whole reason you get title insurance. So the title insurance company can then go and pay that, all right? That's just one example. Trust me, there are hundreds of examples, okay? Now, benefits of a preliminary search. So let's say you want to list a property, you're working with a seller, they want to list the property, but they don't know. Hey, I don't know if I have any liens on this property or whatnot. You give me a call or shoot me an email, say, hey, Ange, can you pull a prelim on this property? You don't have a buyer yet, right? You're just possibly listing it for the seller. So there's not truly an order for a closing yet, but you still want to have that title pulled just to see what you're dealing with as an agent. And that comes in very handy the busier you get as your customers are coming to you and saying, hey, I think there might be something on here, but I don't know. So you call me, we'll pull a prelim for you and we'll get it started. That way, when you get a buyer for that property, half the work's already done, right? You just come back and say, oh, we got a buyer, here's the purchase agreement, we've already got the search done, and that's gonna cut your time in half, all right? Questions so far? Nope. All right, title problems. These are some of the things we deal with. Issues with title are found and corrected in 1 out of every 3 residential real estate transactions. That's a lot. That's 33.33% of deals out there have some sort of defect in their title, all right? That's why I make the money I make, which trust you on me is not a whole lot, but hey, I love what I do. So this is what I do is I clear up those title problems, okay? They are identified and resolved before the transaction. So they don't have to be dealt with in court later. Again, that's your title company. That's what you're counting on us to take care of for you. So this doesn't come and bite you in the backside later on down the road, okay? Occasionally, after all the searching and examination, a title problem may still be hidden or missed. We talked about that with the contractor. That may come forward after closing and say something. And the title policy offers financial protection against that problem. We talked about that as well, okay? So your main goal is to protect your customers, your clients, and you want to make sure that you are teaming up with people who got your back, all right? Does this person know how to deal with title insurance? Yes, so make sure you're dealing with people who can make you look like a rock star, all right? 12 common transaction file problems. We talked about some of these, paid unreleased loans, sellers not vested in title, okay? Seller is deceased. That's probably why son may be trying to sell the house, okay? Properties over encumbered, meaning too many people have interest in that property. Let's talk about a land contract, for instance. This is confusing stuff, especially for realtors. It is confusing because it's not a rental agreement. A lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna sell my house to this person on land contract. And then that person defaults, they move, okay? Then the seller who owns the home wants to then sell it outright. Well, all of a sudden, we're pulling title and we see that this prior land contract owner has an interest in the property because there was a land contract. 9 times out of 10, I call that seller, they're mad at me. No, they just rented. No, you had them sign a land contract that gave them interest in the property. Anybody who has interest in a property has to sign off their interest via a deed. So it's kind of fun sometimes to track down these old land contract holders who ditched the property 8 years ago, but now have to sign a deed to release their interest in the property. So if you're dealing with a land contract, always let your title company know that so that they know exactly what they need to be looking for on their end, okay? So that's just one over encumbered example. Tax liens, judgments. A judgment is maybe an unpaid medical bill from 15 years ago. They placed what's called a judgment on title so that they, if that house is ever sold, can recoup their money, okay? We've already talked about, we've got state warrants as well, pending lawsuits. A divorce is considered a pending lawsuit, okay? So if you have sellers who are going through a divorce or buyers, doesn't happen as often, but if you have sellers that are going through a divorce, let your title company know that as well, okay? Housing code violations, weed liens, those kind of things. Numerous matters of record against people with a similar name. You are selling a house for John Smith. There are a lot of John Smiths in the world, right? So when we pull title, we could have pages and pages of judgments against a John Smith. So we have to weed those out, okay? If you can always provide a middle initial for the seller on those purchase agreements, don't just put John Smith, maybe put John T. Smith, okay? Because then if we have judgments against a John A. Smith, we know we can automatically weed those out, right? Okay? If we come to find out that there are judgments on title that do not belong to your seller, we will have them sign what's called a not one and the same affidavit at closing. All that does is clear them. They're just saying, hey, I'm not one and the same as this particular person here. If it is their judgment, we've got to order a payoff and get it paid off at closing. All right. Seller is a partnership, LLC, corporation, or trust. And this is important, guys. If you are dealing with a seller, from a title standpoint, we look at sellers as two ways, okay? They're either an individual or an entity, okay? If it's John Smith, it's individual, it's easy, right? If it's John Smith, manager for ABC LLC, then that is now an entity. If it's an estate, it's an entity. If the sellers are in the name of a trust, it's an entity. Anytime it is not an individual, it is an entity, which means your title company will need paper documentation that backs up who can sign on behalf of that entity, okay? So if you're dealing with the trust, don't be surprised if the title company calls you and says, hey, I need the trust documents. We need to verify that the person who is able to sell that property is truly legally able to sell that property. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
These are just certain little things we deal with on a daily basis. All right, keywords that you as agents need to listen for. The big 3 Ds: divorce, death, delinquent. Those are red flags, y'all. So if again, your seller says we're going through a divorce, we need to know that. If the divorce is pending, we can still proceed as normal because they are still considered husband and wife, okay? Which makes them one entity, we can sell it. They're individuals, right? Now, we then have to do an updated title search the day of closing to make sure that that divorce has not gone final. Because if that divorce is final, all the rules change, because now we are bound by what's called a marital separation agreement that's included in your divorce decree that tells us exactly how we have to handle the proceeds from the sale, all right? Mr. gets this much, Mrs. gets this much. So again, remember that if you're dealing with sellers going through a divorce, as long as that divorce is pending day of closing, we handle it as normal. But if it goes final prior to closing, we have to stop. We have to wait for the divorce decree to be signed off by the judge so that we can follow the rules of that marital agreement, okay? So keep that in mind. Death, all right? We'll go back to son selling mom's house. Say mom has passed, okay? Son's not selling her house. Well, legally, he can't sell her house unless we have something signed off by the courts that says he can sign that or sell that house, okay? Was an estate open? That is the number one thing, and you will be surprised at how many people get mad at me because I have to tell them that their seller has to go open an estate. It takes time and it takes money, all right? But it has to happen because all the money then is diverged to the estate, not to the son, right? But, just make sure that if that comes up anytime you are dealing with a listing, that you get whatever information. If they say, oh, this was my mom, my dad's house, my dad passed away 10 years ago, but my mom just passed away 6 months ago and I'm selling her house. Chances are that house is in both his mom and dad's name, right? Well, we have to clear all of that, but it's all doable. I mean, that's every day of my life is what I do to take care of those situations. But especially if him and his brother or sister are on good terms, it would be an easy fix.
Yeah, I just think, he definitely doesn't want to deal with it, but she doesn't know. I just think that she doesn't want the work
Yeah,
and the expense, you know, because I know it could probably be expensive.
it could be, but you can always work something out too, where if you're dealing with an estate attorney or whatnot, you know, you could pay their costs at the closing table out of proceeds and stuff like that. So there are ways to work around it. I would just reach out to an estate attorney and just kind of get the ball rolling. It may not be as expensive as you think it is. Plus you would recoup any of it by selling the house.
I just feel bad, it's like rotting there, all her stuff, everything's still there. He took some stuff like memories.
Right.
Pictures. Everything's.
I would open up that house, I would do an auction or let people come in.
So they're even afraid, they're afraid to do that, because they said it's not theirs anymore, is what they're saying, because it's like, it's the property of the state, even though they're certain they never opened state, you know what I mean?
I wonder if, did it go into, well, it wouldn't have gone into foreclosure. It'd be interesting. You should send me the address when you get a chance and let me pull and see what I can see on it. I can see if there's mortgage and stuff against it. Okay, yeah, shoot that over to me. Third D, delinquent, okay? Are their taxes delinquent? Are their association dues delinquent? Those are all things that would be considered a negative lien on title, okay? If they don't pay their association dues, the association's gonna place that negative lien on title. We then have to clear it either by paying it off or having them release it. So those are your 3 Ds. Learn them, love them, know them, because those are your red flags, y'all, okay? All right, so here's what happened. How do you come into this? How does this get from you sitting down with a seller to you getting paid at the closing table? All right, so order entry, you finally got that seller, or you got a signed purchase agreement. You've got a buyer and a seller, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna flip that purchase agreement over to me. And there are multiple ways you can do that. We'll get into that here towards the end. But you're gonna send the purchase agreement over to me with any information that you think would help me, and we'll go into that here in a little bit. And then I get the ball rolling. I order the search, and then it takes a couple days for that search to come back. And then it goes through the exam process. We talked about that, which is another day. Then it comes to me. We'll get to that here in a second. So in the process between search, they're checking taxes, they're searching it, and they're examining it. We've talked about those. So then a few days later, that title commitment's gonna be sent to you guys as realtors at the same time I'm gonna see it for the first time, all right? So we are both looking at that commitment pretty much simultaneously. So you're gonna learn as an agent, I'm gonna open this title commitment and I'm just gonna peep at it. And if there's any red flags, I'm gonna reach out to my title girl, all right? I, on the other end, am gonna start clearing title. I'm gonna order the deed. I'm gonna order any payoffs to any liens that are showing up on title. I'm going to order association dues information. And in the meantime, I'm gonna be reaching out to you guys because I'm gonna need information from you. What's your commission? What's your transaction fee? What's, or the last 4 or 5 digits of your seller's social security number, because 99.9% of the time, in order to order a payoff, we need at least the last 4, okay? Some of them are now asking for the last 5, and then some even the last 6. So if I ask you for a social security number, at least provide me the last 6, just in case, okay? So if I'm bugging you, that's why. All I'm trying to do is get things cleared on my end while you're trying to negotiate inspections and everything else that you guys have to deal with, all right? And then finally, we get to settlement. You're ready to close. You reach out to me and say, hey, we want to get this on the books for Friday at 9 a.m. at the North office. All right, I schedule it. I send all parties closing confirmation. We get a closer scheduled for you. If you want me to close it, just let me know. I've only closed about 25,000 in my lifetime. I'd be happy to close it for you, okay? Whatever's gonna make you and your customers the happiest is what we are trying to do. Now, each and every one of y'all agents are different, and I, in 27 years, have learned the arts of mastering different, I call them egos, y'all call them personalities, right? Which I've come to love with y'all's egos, trust me. Now, y'all are different. Some of you may not want us to contact your buyers or sellers, period, at all for anything. You go straight through me for everything, all right? We get it. Some of y'all don't want us to go through you for anything. Some of you say, here's my seller's information, call them directly. We're okay with that too. But we don't know unless you tell us, okay? What I do is I note that and I try to remember that each and every transaction that I have with you and say, all right, Leah likes it this way, Adriana likes it this way. And I try to make that happen. Again, I'm dealing with hundreds of people, so if I mess something up, don't get mad at me, I'll fix it the next time, okay? But if you don't want a combined settlement statement to go to your customer, you want them split, let me know that, I'll make a note of it, and then the next time it won't happen, all right? So just let me know, and again, the more information you guys give me at the onset, the easier it is for me to work through the file. So when you So we're gonna get to that as well. The settlement statement is your breakdown of your costs for your buyer and seller. I can combine them so buyer and seller are all the same, or I can split them so the buyer's not seeing the seller's not seeing the buyers. Now, with that said, we are a full disclosure title company. So if the seller calls me and says, I want to see the buyer's side, I have to give him the buyer's side as well. All right, I won't do it and most of the time they don't even ask, but if they do, we have to be full disclosure. Okay, we can't hide anything from either party. So that's kind of the gist of it from beginning to end. So again, you get that purchase agreement over to me and then we meet the closing date that's on the purchase agreement. All right. All right, what do we need to get started? Purchase agreement and all addendums, any invoices you want us to pay, okay? What your commission will be, we talked about that, your office fee, and if you're dealing with the buyer and they have a lender, please provide that lender contact information because we have no idea who your buyer is dealing with until you tell us, all right? How title will be held. If you are selling or you've got a buyer and it's a man and a woman, are they husband and wife? If you know that, let us know. Because if we don't know, we're walking into a closing thinking they're husband and wife and it's a father and a daughter or something along those lines. So just kind of tell us, there are different ways title can be held and I would be happy to sit down with each of you guys and explain the different ways. I don't expect you guys to all know that, but just let me know ultimately, are they husband and wife? Are they mom and son? You know, however that situation is. It's not your average situation. All right, seller, we talked about full name, social security number, mortgage information. If we are paying off a mortgage, they are going to need a signed mortgage authorization, which I could send you one for each transaction, or some agents have their own on file. They just automatically have their seller sign, but that's where they're going to put their social security information and their account number, okay? Because we need that to order the payoff. And sometimes the HOA needs signed authorization as well. Generally, I have what I need to order association letters, so I don't worry too much about that, but every once in a while I need to know, is there an association? Because I'm not sure that there's one on my sheet, okay? So we may have those kind of questions. I'm not gonna really talk about timing of a closing. This was really prevalent about 10 years ago, but it's kind of subsided a little bit. But everything is timed, y'all. You know, I know you guys live and breathe by deadlines as well. You have 3 days to do this, 8 days to do this or whatever. But we also live on deadlines, which is why if you give me a purchase agreement today and they have a lender and they want to close it next week, it's going to be difficult, okay? Because the lender is also working with their own timelines. Buyer has to sign the CD, the prelim CD 3 days prior to any docs going out. So everything is timed. So if you ever call me and I'm like, hey, I can't meet that, here's why, you'll know why. It's just maybe because the lender hasn't met their end yet as far as their time delivery periods, all right? We do whatever we have to do to get to the closing table, but we are bound by the lender. Make sense? All right. So the settlement statement is the second form that's in your packet. This is a breakdown of all the closing costs, okay? It's gonna be a 4-page document. In here. There you go, 4-page document. Sometimes it's 2 pages, sometimes it's 3, but this is what you guys as realtors will live and breathe by. And we as a title company will get to you as soon as we possibly can prior to closing, okay? And why I say that is, I had a closing yesterday at 4 o'clock and I couldn't get them a Alta settlement statement until probably 3:45. Because the lender wasn't ready, they tried to switch it, they tried to cancel it, and it was crazy, but we try and get those out to you guys as soon as we possibly can. So as soon as we get numbers from the lender, their closing costs, we put everything together, all the invoices that you provided us, all the information that we've obtained as far as payoffs, and we put that all onto what's called an Alta settlement statement, which is ultimately going to tell you as a realtor, this is how much my buyer needs to bring to closing and why. This is how much my seller is going to walk away with and why, okay? And I would be happy to sit down and go through one of these with you. Every title company's software is going to look a little different, but at the end of the day, each commitment and each Alta settlement statement are going to be pretty much the same, okay? So once you learn to read one of them, you'll pretty much be able to read any of them, all right? There are some quirky software programs out there and they may put things in different places, but ultimately all your numbers are going to be there, all right? So you as an agent, obviously you want to make sure your commission rate is correct, or your commission amount is correct, okay? Do we have 2% when we're supposed to have 3%? Please, please, please look at that commission amount. Yes, we do reach out and get those amounts prior to closing, but there have been many instances where I've closed a loan and got a call from an agent 2 days later saying my commission was wrong. All right. How does that happen? I don't know, but it does. So please make sure you're checking commission. All right. Miscellaneous invoices, home warranties, hey, my sellers agreed to give, pay $3,000 carpet allowance to the buyer. We need to know all of those things, okay? If that original commitment changes, not commitment, sorry, purchase agreement changes from the time you originally sent it to us in any way, shape, or form, addendums, amendments, those kind of things, inspection responses that affect numbers, please make sure that that information is also passed on to the title company. There are a lot of times I feel like we're the last ones to know, and then I'll get somebody mad at me saying, hey, they were supposed to do this. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know, just send me over the invoice, okay? All right, so what does title insurance cover? We've talked about this. Another person claiming an ownership interest. Somebody pops up, long lost brother, okay? Says, wait a minute, I was supposed to get some of mom and dad's money. That's what you're buying title insurance for, okay? Improperly recorded documents. Nothing is finalized until documents are recorded. Make sense? That is what discloses to the county that this transaction actually happens. Fraud and forgery, okay? We're gonna ask for everybody's driver's licenses prior to closing. They have to be valid IDs. They cannot be expired. Otherwise, I have to stop closing and send them to the license branch. I've done it, trust me. It has to be done. Liens, we've talked about that, encroachments, you know, if it's easements, did somebody, build a fence over your seller's property? And it's created an encroachment, okay? Well, your new buyer, they don't have to like it. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be okay with it because it's already there. But your buyer can say, hey, no, that's encroaching on my property. It needs to come down. It's their property. They can do what they want, okay? Now, couple things that I kind of want to point out, as we end the PowerPoint is property address. As a title company, and this is, a lot of agents don't realize this, we don't care what the property address is. We don't look at the property address 9 times out of 10. The only thing we look at it for is to make sure it matches the lender's instruction, okay? We're not insuring that address. We're not insuring that house. That house burns down, it's not our problem. We're insuring the rights to that property, meaning your land and your airspace, right? So if there's any, you strike gold under your property, it's yours. Government might come knocking, but legally it's your gold, right? Because it's on your property. So it goes down and it goes up. I think we all learned that in real estate, right? You got your aerial rights as well. So kind of keep that in mind. It is a very common misconception that we care about the property address. We do not. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, the address is wrong, and they're mad at me, well, I'm sorry, we don't look at that. We don't care about it. We care about the legal description. Legal description is what we live and breathe by, so make sure that you're putting the correct brief legal on the purchase agreement. That's what we're gonna search, folks. If you put lot 254 on the purchase agreement, we're searching lot 254. Oh, sorry, I meant lot 258. Well, now we gotta do a whole new search, which we'll do, not a problem. It happens, but those are what we care about. That's what your lender's gonna care about, because you're mortgaging the legal description. You learn something new every day, don't you? Yeah. So make sure your legal's right. I can tell you horror stories where they meant to only sell a portion of the land, but the legal that was put on the purchase agreement showed that they were selling a lot more of the land. So buyer got a little bit more land than they anticipated. It created a headache, but it can be done. As agents, and I would also like to sit down with y'all on this as well, you can draw your purchase agreement up in a way that will help your title company and help you get to the closing table better, you know? There's information you can put in that title, in that purchase agreement. Is it new construction? Okay, keep that in mind, because if you pick prorate taxes, we're gonna prorate taxes based on the last known tax amount. And if it's new construction, guess what? Last known tax amount was probably bare land. That's super cheap taxes. You have bare land taxes, you might be looking at $19 a year versus all of a sudden there's a house on there, so now they're $3,900 a year, okay? So we need to make sure that you are negotiating, you know, if you've got the buyer, don't click prorate taxes, because they're gonna end up getting a $12 credit at closing. Or you can click C or 3 or whatever that is on the purchase agreement and say $5,000. And you can negotiate a price that you can go back and forth to your buyer. If you're dealing with a new construction or a home that doesn't have taxes fully assessed on it yet, the best thing to do is come see me or ask me about it. Or you can call me anytime, y'all. You'll have my cell phone number, pick up the phone, say, Angie, I'm sitting down with somebody right now. It's new construction. Mark me and negotiate an amount. Because if you mark B, we're gonna prorate it based on the last known tax bill, which is not gonna benefit your buyer. Okay, so in fact, your buyer is probably gonna kind of be mad at you, and you're probably gonna be eating money out of your commission. So you wanna make sure that that's filled in correctly, because we live and breathe by that purchase agreement. We cannot deter from it. If somebody marks buyers paying the full closing fee, and I put $500 on the buyer side, you settlement statement, you're like, wait a minute, they should have been split. Well, the purchase agreement shows buyer paying. I can't switch it unless you provide me an addendum or amendment switching it, okay? I get those two confused. Addendum, you're adding something, amendment, you're changing something. All right, I have to remind myself of that all the time. All right, so does anybody have any questions so far? Any questions, Adriana? I can't see you. I feel like I'm talking to you, but you're not there. There you are.
I'm here. No, I don't have any questions.
All right, is this making a little bit of sense to you?
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, So how do you send in a title order, right? Oh, girlfriend, there are lots of ways to send in a title. So first things first, you can just email it to me. My email address is right there. It's gonna be on the card. It's pretty much on every piece of documentation I just gave you. You can just email me over the purchase agreement. And when you do that, if you can try to get into the habit of putting your information in the body of the email. Hey, my commission is this, my transaction fee is this, my attached is the seller's mortgage payoff letter, or something along those lines. But whatever information you can provide me when you send me that purchase agreement to order title, the better. It's gonna be less phone calls I'm gonna have to make to you, okay? So that's probably one of the places you want to start, is just email me directly. We also have an orders box, and that's going to be on your paperwork as well. You can send all title orders directly to orders@partnerstitle-in.com. Everything is going to end with partnerstitle-in.com. Okay, so you've got me, Angie B, you've got orders. Pretty simple so far, right? You send it to orders, it will go directly to our order entry desk. They will plug that information in according to what information you give them. And they will get the search started based on that purchase agreement. Okay, so that's what starts your ball rolling, is getting that order over to me. You can also go directly to our website. You know about our website? All right, go to the last page of your little packet I gave you. You're gonna see a flyer called title capture, okay? Yep, right here. So title capture, and Adriana, I'll make sure I get all this over to you, okay? But this kind of gives you an idea. You can scan that QR code, and it's gonna pretty much take you directly to our website and show you how you can make that almost like an app. We don't have an actual app per se, but you can just kind of go to our website and it will give you directions. If you hit the mobile app toggle, it will give you directions on how you can upload it right to your phone. So if you're sitting there with a customer at a listing and they want to know, hey, what do you think I'm going to walk away with? You can pull that up and generate a seller net sheet right then and there for them. Yep. You can pull a title quote right then and there for them. Everything is at your fingertips. You want to know what the fees are going to be on our end? Just go right to that website, log in, and generate it, okay? This is a free service. Anybody can go into it, but I strongly suggest you actually sign in and sign up, okay? There's a way that you can sign up. You can upload your profile picture. You can upload a profile. So every time you generate a net sheet or a title quote and you print that off or you email it over to them, it's gonna have your personalized picture, your personalized information right there on it, okay? It is a free service right there at your fingertips. So I strongly suggest you get into our website when we're done here and sign in and sign up. Again, you can go in and do whatever you need to do, but if you really want to get the full features, or you can maybe do multiple seller net sheets at the same time, then sign up. Okay, there is a difference. You're gonna get more features if you sign up versus just signing in, all right? So that's the main thing. You can also go to the back of my card. There's a QR code there as well. You can scan the QR code. That will take you directly to our website, where you can then place a title order as well, okay? Main thing I want you ladies to understand is I am not just a title girl, okay? I've been in this field for a long time. I've started answering phones 27 years ago for $7 an hour at a title company, not even knowing what a title company was. And I've worked my way up to regional positions over the years. So I've done just about everything in the title world, which just makes me that much more experienced to help you, okay? A few years ago, I got a bug up my butt, decided to go get my real estate license too. So I put title on hold, spent 6 weeks in a classroom. Took the hardest test I ever had to take in my entire life. Passed it on the second try, not gonna lie. Took me twice, but I did get my real estate license. So I was able to sit through what you guys as agents sit through and experience how you see things from your end, okay? So that also helps me because I know how to fill out a purchase agreement. I know how to maneuver Paragon, and I don't have access to it anymore. My license is in referral with Keller Williams. But I know how to help you guys on more than just a title front, okay? When I say full service title girl, I mean, I am a full service title girl. Nothing that I can't do. If I don't know the answer, I promise I will get you the answer. But I have handled difficult situations. I've handled closings for presidents, not of the United States, but close. But, you know, I've handled a lot of big closings in my life. So I am here in any way, shape, or form to help you, because I know one of the hardest things that I ever did, and I have the utmost respect for you guys as real estate agents, was take that test and learn real estate. Just the overwhelming sensation that comes along with being a new agent, with every app being thrown at you. I was so sick of creating profiles. It was insane. I mean, there was just, yeah, there was so much, and everybody's like, oh, no, try this one, try this one. And I felt overwhelmed a lot, okay? So I can just imagine what you guys are going through. So just know that you have somebody on your side that has been there, and can guide you, all right? I can talk to your customers. If you need me to talk to your customers, you know, I'd be happy to get on the phone and explain anything that I can to them. I've had many agents do it. And I know as new agents, you guys are gonna have a lot of questions, and that's what I'm here for, okay? I literally have an open door policy, considering my office has no door. Feel free to walk on in. There's some chairs in there, pop a squat, and we can sit down and talk through things together. You can also reach out to me individually. I know I've sat down with you, Adriana, but I can sit down with you as well and go through this title commitment, kind of go through a step by step. This is what the proposed insured means. This is why you have the loan policy and the owner's policy. There's a lot to it that you guys don't have to understand, but it will only help you grow your career if you do understand it, okay? So the main thing you need to decide is this a job or is this a career, okay? Is this something that I really want to take myself further in? And it's okay either way. You take it as far as you want to take it, but just know that I'm here to help you further that any way I can, okay? Any questions, gals? No?
I have a lot of questions eventually.
And that's fine. You may think of something after the fact. You might go through this paperwork and say, what the heck does this mean? And that's perfectly fine, guys. Reach out to me, call me, email me. But if you guys have questions, please reach out.